Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um. So yesterday we did um the part two of the basis of C plus plus. So what we did was we did a basic introduction to strings, which we have string concatenations. Then after that we go through string lengths, how to get the length of a string, and then we go through accessing strings in C plus plus. Then how you can access a character in a string by referring to its index number. Then we go through special characters. Then after that we go through getting string from the user or an input from the user using the getLine function. Using the getLine function, and then we explain namespaces in strings. And after that we go through some basics of math in C plus plus, which we said you can do using the CMass header. Then we did some simple maths, and then we also did some simple math formula to get the distance of points. So basically that's what we did yesterday. So today what we are going to do is we are going to look at conditions and conditions, loops, and control statements in C plus plus. As we already said, we are doing it in respect to like game development. So let's create our file. So we call this one basis part 3.cpp. And as always, we create our hello world app. Listing. Today I want us to use a different method using the standard library. So we say standard cout. Instead of using the global start using namespace standard, we just be appending it to each name as we call the functions. So this is our basic hello world program that we have created. So as I said, the files that I have sent in the group yesterday, I included a how to use the MinGW compiler to compile your code. So today we are going to compile this one, which is basis underscore part 3. We said part 3 dot cpp, and we just say 3. Okay, so here we add what the standard library to this. We compile again. Now we run our executable. So we have it here. Welcome to part 3 of game development C++ for game dev. So today we said we are going to look at conditions. So let's start with our today's conditional or conditions and what if statements. C++. So let's say what are conditions? So we said conditions are used to make decisions based on what certain what criteria. So we say what conditions are used to make decisions based on certain criteria. So in C++, we have ways of handling conditional statements. So first we have what the if. So basically what the if statement does is we said is what used to execute a block of code. A block of code if what a certain what condition is meant. So if a certain if a certain condition is meant. So for example, let's say we have we declare an integer. So let's say unsigned integer health equals to 0. So the reason why we are adding an unsigned to an integer is because we don't want it to be negative. You can't have negative health. So that's why we are adding on unsigned. Sign means it should include the negative. So but unsigned means it should not include the negative. And here a typical integer is always like include like approximately -2 billion to +2 billion characters. But when we are using an unsigned integer, it's basically like about 4 billion characters. Yeah, something thereabout. So we are now getting combination of this for one of this. So only positive. So you get positive for 4 billion plus characters. But here basically we are adding on unsigned because we don't want the help to be what negative. So let's Um, this one, we haven't done functions yet, but I just want to do some small this thing. So let's say we have gain over, and we say C out, gain over. As I said, today we'll be using the standard. So let's come here and define our first what if statement. So our first if statement, we said what if statement is what is used to execute what a block of code if a certain condition is what met. So we said we can say if, for example, the health of the player. So we are taking this health here. So we can say the health is what, let's just say less than what, 0, less than or equals to what, 0. Then we can call the function game over. So this what this function is basically doing is to check, is the player health less than or equals to 0, because when your health is less than 0, you cannot you shouldn't be alive again. So that's what we are basically doing here. So let's compile this example here. The function is now allowed here for token. Oh, okay, let me fix this simple this thing. Let me cut this and then we bring it outside here. Since we are not yet doing functions, I will explain why this we are cutting this thing outside. So when we get to functions, then we'll explain that one later. So when we run our code, we have only gotten this line of code printed. And the reason why we have gotten this line of code printed is because this statement is what, false, because our health is what, greater than 0. So if we come here and make the health what, 0, then we come back here and compile, and then we see that we have what, game over, because our health is what, less than what, is now less than or equals to what, 0. So we this line block of what, line of code is what get what executed. So let's look at some of the conditional statements that we can use, or maybe operators that we can use to do comparison. So we have so which we have, for example, A is less than C, then we have less than or equals to, just the same example that we use in our if statement above, so which is written as this, and we have greater than, which we say A is greater than D. Then we have greater than or equal, where we can say F is greater is greater than or equals to J. Then we can have equal to. So where we say W is equals to W, and we can have not equal, not equal. So where we can say W is not equal to E. So let's create another simple function here. Let's just say start game. So you can just say start game here. So if we come here, we can say if, we can define another if statement here. We say if the player health is greater than what? 0, then we should call what? Start game function. So let's compile this again. Compile successful, then we run. We still have a game over because um our health is equals to 0. It's not what? Greater than 0. So let's come here and say, okay, we want to receive the health here. So you can just say C in health, and you can just say std. If I was able to give someone permission to be adding people, it would have been better. Like sometimes I have to go back and add people. Anyway, let's continue. So someone
Oh, if you can give me that permission, I'll be doing that.
yeah, I don't even know how. Come, let me see. I don't think there is any place. Um, um, I want to check and see. Call control. No, no, I don't think there's no any option. Uh, Host control. Okay, okay, yeah. Host manager. Yes, you are. Okay, yeah. I'm able to make it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. I think now anyone can join without asking for permission. So let's say enter player health. We have to make this one. We have to add the standard library to this. So now we can enter the health that we want. So compile. So let's say we enter 10. So now the player health is greater than 0. So we have what? Start game. So we can combine all this these conditions with what? This conditional statement. The if conditional statement to achieve what we want. So you you use this, which would evaluate to a true or false what statement within what this what if statement. So now let's go to another statement which we call the else the else statement. So let me copy this once and then they'll go up here so that mm, we put these things here. So here we have what the else statement, the else statement. So for the else statement is it also, let's say it's also function like um the if statement here, but that one only execute when what it only execute when the if statement is what false, or if the condition in the if statement what is false. So let's say it execute a block of code if the oh so we say it executes a block of what code if the what if condition or if statement is false. So basically that is what the else statement will do. So for example, let's say we have this ones here. If health is less than zero, print the game over. If health is greater than zero, we say what start game. So here let's add another function here. Call it void continue. So we have continue. So let's say we add the else here. So this else statement will execute if none of this is true. If any of this become what false. So we can say that okay, let's change this. Let's change this function to this, and then we add the what you can say this. So what we are basically doing is say if the health is greater than 10 and then the health is what less than what 15, execute what this, else what execute the continue game function. So let's compile this again and run. So let's say we enter 16. You see we get the what else statement what being executed, because this first if statement was was false because half is not less than or equals to 0, and then this second if statement was what was also false because the half is not greater than or equals to 10, and at the same time less than or equals to 15. It was what more than any of these ranges is what was 16. So this make this statement what also become false. So our next statement we can use is what? Else if. So basically that one is just self-explanatory. So mostly the else if always come in between a if statement and then an else statement. So instead of we using another if here, we can convert this our if to what? Else if. Yeah. If this, else, if this, else this. See, instead of adding another if here, we can just add another else if here. So let's compare this and run. Let's say we enter 10 here. We still have what? The same function, start game. So basically, you can add this one or you can add the if statement if you want. But this one is best for, let's say we have three conditions to check. So we can have if, else if this, then else this. Yeah. So our next statement, conditional statement is what we call um the shorthand or what we call the ternary operator. So we call it shorthand if else statement. So it's just basically an if else statement that we shorten. So we just say ternary operator. So this one most programming languages are having a sort of ternary operator. Yeah. So this one it allows you to, let's say if you want to declare a variable at the same time make it an um, a condition. So let's say we can say is player half medium. So we say equals to, then we bring our condition here. Then we bring the condition. Then we say if this condition is true, then return true, else return false. So we say is player is player and come, let me just rename this. So we say boolean is player half medium equals to the condition. If the condition here is true, return true, else return what? False. So for example, let's bring this one down here. You can say boolean is player half medium. Then we can say if the half is what? The player half is greater than or equals to 15. So let's put curly braces here. So we can say half if the player half is greater than or equals to what? 15. Then we can say it should return what? True, else return what? False. Because if the player health is greater than or equals to 15, then that means we are saying that the player health is what? Medium. So we can then come here and use what? An if condition here. So I say and said if this player health medium, Then we can just say continue. So instead of using like three different if statements here, you can just use one and then assign it what a variable, a boolean variable. And not only a boolean variable, we can also, let's say yesterday we go through strength, so we can also what use a different data type. So I'm just going to use string as an example. So let's come here and say string is player okay equals to, then we say if the player health is greater than let's just say 5, then it should return okay. We said let's say bad. So this we can just say cout, and then we can say is player health let's just say status. This that will make more sense. Status of player health. And you can say is player health, is player okay. So this line will return what true or false, and then this line here we are what printing, we are assigning a string to this, and we are saying you should check for this condition. If it is true, then put the okay into this string. If it is false, then put what bad into this. So let's compile this and see what we get. Okay, Sarah was not declared in the scope. His player was not declared in the scope. Did I spell the name correctly? It's P-I-Y-A-I. Yeah, it's correct. Oh, okay. Hmm. Sorry. Yeah. Yeah, you have to. I think yesterday I even explained this thing about using the namespace for the string here. So yeah, so that's example of why we should use the namespace for the string. So you can see that it was saying that it was not in the scope. Meanwhile, it was in the scope because we haven't added what there is the standard library distance to attach to it. So let's say the player health is first. Let's check for this first condition. Let's say 20. So we have continue what game, and we have what status of player health is what okay, because the player health is what greater than 5. So this is why we will what get assigned to what the string this string is what player okay. So is the player okay? Yes, you said it's okay, but let's try running this and then let's enter a number like 0, and we have game over because this one doesn't get to be what executed. And then we have the status of the player have to be what? Bad. So basically that is just how you can use the ternary operator to assign different values. So that's just the basis of conditions and what if else statement and ternary operator. So any question before we move to our switch switches in C++ or switch statements? Yeah, Sasha.
Yeah, the standard library.
Yeah,
Why don't you just import it from the beginning, and you keep importing it anytime you try to run uh, to point out a code, like to call out
yeah,
to see out a code.
yeah. Okay. When we started, I said today we will take a different approach so that we know that
But
okay, like you can instead of doing using the namespace standard here
yeah, just
at
at
the,
the
yeah,
top.
yeah, we can
Uh-huh.
also do this because as we get further into advanced stuff, it's not all the time that, or it's not all the time it's recommended that you should be using this.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can also go directly to this, or maybe
Uh,
you can use this and still what, use this. For example, let's say we define our own cout, then we can use our own namespace here instead of standard.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, okay.
Any other question before we move to switches? Okay, since no question, we move to switches. So we said the switch statement is used to execute different blocks of code depending on that the value of what a variable. So that's what basically the switch statement is for. So let's look at an example of a switch statement. So before we look at example, let's just look at a simple structure of how this switch statements look like. So we have the switch, and then we have the expression, then we have what the curly. So it's more or less like a function, you know. Then we have our the first case, then which we will run our code here. Then if we want, we can break through. So we can have our code block here. After that, we can break from it, and then we can have another case. So the case can keep going as much as the expressions can evaluate to. So we have another break here. And then last but not the least, we have what default. So this default will always get executed when when like let's say for example this case become false and this one to like when all the cases become false, or maybe their expressions become false. So that's when the default was statement will get executed. So this is a basic switch statement. Let's just comment this code out. So let's see how we can use an example of a switch statement in game development. So one of the examples, or maybe popular examples of using switch statements in game development is like, let's say, player movement. Okay, so let's define some simple functions here. We say move, void move, let's say move left. So we say standard out, move left, and then we have move right, and we have move right, and then we have move, let's say move up, and then we have move down, let's make sure that our stds are added. Format this to make it look nice. So we have created 4 functions, 1, 2, 3, 4, for player movement. So here, when we come to this place, we create our expression. Here. So let's say you receive character as our expression. So we say direction. We define direction. We said equals to b. So we say our direction equals to b. But what we want to do is we want to make the player move according to what um direction. So we have w. So we say w for up, a for what, whether small a or capital A, for left, then s for down, and d for right. So let's create our switch statement and we take in the direction. So our first case is let's say if is w, then we said w is for what, up, so we call the move up function here. Then we break out of the switch. And then the next one is we have another case here. Let's say we have we said a is for left, so a, say move left, then we break out of the loop. Then we say case um as, so we have s, and say move s is down, move down. 1 2 3, so the last one, then we break, and then we have our last case here, which is t, which we said what the player should move to the right. And we break, then we just bring the default. If none of this is true, we just see out player is not moving. And we break out of this. So let's run this and see. Let's compare this. B okay, this one we just have to change it to single quotes as we did here, because characters, they only accept single quotes. So we compile and we run. This one is different. Let's enter. So we get what player is not what moving, and the reason why we get player is not moving is because we have B here, and our player movement we have W, A, S, and what D. So let's try putting one of those. Let's say we ask for direction from the user. So let's just say standard cout set, we say enter, player movement direction. Yeah. So, you will take the player movement direction from the user here. So let's compile this. Run. Sorry, this is small letter. Compile. Then we run again. This one is still the old code health. So let's enter the player movement here. So let's say we enter A. So when we enter A, we see that we have what move what left, and we say what when the A key is pressed or the A character is pressed, the player should move what left. So this is the statement that is what executed, and then we break out of what the switch what statement. So basically any character that we enter, and is correspond with what any of this player movement, then that is what the function that is going to call. Let's add another function. Let's add one other function here. So let's add void jump. jump let's jump up, or let's say player jump. So we are going to add another this thing here. Let's use y. So if the character is y, we say the player should jump up, to jump up the y-axis. So we can come here and add another case here. So let's come here, case y. Jump. Let me see, is it the same function that we declare here? Yeah, it's jump. So we add it here, jump. Then break out. Let's format the code so that it will look nice. Yeah, everything looking nice. So let's compile the code again. Now let's run it. Clear hot. So let's enter y here, and we have what, player what, jump. So when you enter the when you enter y, we are saying that the player should what, jump. So that is basically how what the switch statement works. And actually in game development, this is some of the ways we can use it to what, control the player. You know, if you press if this key is pressed, then the player should do this function, like maybe move forward, move right, upwards, and all sort of things. Yeah. So let's explain what this keyword is for, the break. So basically what the break statement is, the break statement, or the break keyword, is used to what, break out of what, the switch what, the switch block. So when this our condition is achieved, we just say okay, break out of that function, break out of what, the switch what, loop, or the switch what statement, just break out of it, instead of still going through the others. So if we didn't break out, like, it will just continue executing these ones. So no more testing, instead of it to test throughout all these ones, like go through all this. Let's say for example, if w is pressed, it should what, stop the execution within this line, or else it will just start what, it will continue to checking the, without the break statement, it will just continue checking this, which is something that we don't need, because it will cause a lot of execution time. So this breaks save us what, execution time. Yeah. So the default keyword too, I said, let me add that one too here. So we said the default keyword specifies what code to run if there's no case match. So if none of the cases match, if none of these cases match, if none of this match, then we said what, the default should be this. So let's run our code again. So let's enter a character that doesn't match any of this. You see the default what keyword have the default case out has been what executed. Player is not what moving because we have entered U, and then U is not in our player movement direction here. Yeah. So any question before we move to loops? We go to another main topic called loops. Loops in C++. This is also one of the most important topics in game development because you know we use loops for creating a window or maybe running a game concurrently. So any question concerning the switch? Yeah, Shaibu.
Yeah, the listen, like me, I want to know when you look at the cases, we ends
Yeah.
with column, but the other lesson we end with semicolon. So what the difference?
Oh, okay. So basically, these cases are under the switch. So they are like functions or conditions. Let's say, for example, like the if statement that would execute or check the conditions. So this one's the move up is a function that we are calling. So it's a statement that we need to what, terminate. So in C++, you terminate statements afterward. You finish writing them or when they reach their line end. So break is also a keyword that is also used under what the switch. So these ones are under what the case here. So this one that what statement that are under what case. That's why we are using what the column here. And then case 2 is under what switch. So behind the hood, this one is looping through this direction to see matching through this direction to what see if it matches what any of these what cases here. And then when it matches the case, then we come inside, let's say the case. So the case is also like let's say an enclosing brackets, you know, it's like a enclosing what a function type of thing. So we say if this case is true, then execute what the statement below or what inside what this case. So visually you will see that okay, these ones are not inside, but practically these ones are inside what this case. So that's why we use the column here, use what the semicolon here. Okay, any other question? When we reach our classes and function, visual function, all those things, like that's when we will be able to explain some of these things into like details why we are having this column and all these things because they are all having meaning. But right now, if we are to explain them deeper, you will become confused. Yeah, maybe we haven't done functions yet. So if no question, we'll go through loops. So we said loops are what? We said loops are loops are used to repeat a block of code multiple times. So basically that is what loops are. So we just like how we have the conditional if statement here, and then I just execute a block of code here. Check the condition and then execute the block of code. For loops, they will what? Check the condition and what? Run the code what? Multiple times until the condition is what? True. Then they will stop what? Executing it. So for example, let's create another functions, example functions here. So let's say void, let's say update. Mm, update, let's say update game world. Then we define another function here. Let's call it draw graphics, or let's say draw game graphics. So the first loop we are going to use is let's use the while loop first. So let's say while the while loop. So what is a while loop? We say what the while loop what? So the while loop is used to repeat a block of code while what a certain condition is true. So an example of a while loop is this. So we have condition, and we have for the statement here, or the block of code. Let's just say a block of code. So that is how basically how a while loop is. So let's see how we can use it. So for example, let's say while let's create another variable here. Let's say it's int. We already have a player health somewhere here. Here. So we already defined player health here. So let's come down here and let's use this operator 2 here. So let's come here. So we are going to create a new variable, a new boolean variable called is player alive. So we just say if player health is greater than 0, say the player is alive. So we say is player alive. So if player is alive, we say what? update the game world, and then draw the game graphics. So I'm coming. Let's go to this and make some add some print statement here. So just say CL and just say drawing game graphics or game world. You can just add some decorations to this. So here, if this thing is true, then it will just what be in the loop printing this. So just continue printing this until we ask it to stop. So if we want anytime this thing run, when we can ask to what update the player life, the player health. So it will continue executing until the player health is what less than what 0, then it will stop. So this is an example of a while loop. If we run this, we will get what we call an infinite loop. So for example, let's run this and you see. So if we say player health is 10, you see that it's just continue running the code, because the player health is what greater than what 0, and then it will keep what updating and drawing the graphics. So let's quit this. So basically that's what the while loop is. It will continue running until this one become what false. So here we can just reassign the player health to what 0. So if we come here, compare this, run it, player health, let's say 10, player direction B, the same thing. So it will just what keep looping until we update this health, and then recall this again, and then that's when the loop will stop. So but for now, this is how what while loop works. So it will continue executing until this thing become false. So let's comment this one for now, and we move to do while loop. Do while loop. Do while loop. Do while loop. For this one to if we want, for example, let's say we want to um make it stop, we can bring the health here too. For example, we can say health, and just say health minus minus. So it will keep running, looping through until the health that we have passed here become what less than what 0. So for example, let's do this one. So let's just say half is 5. Okay. Why is this thing keep looping? It's supposed to stop. Anyway, but if practically if you want to stop this thing, that's how you do it. You will decrement what the condition here. So for example, instead of it to be using this, okay, I think the reason being is player alive while health is less than 0, because this thing keep running because the player health was greater than what 0. So that's why we are still having that same repeating issue. Okay. You see that it doesn't even run because this one was already what false since we changed what the condition. So let's move on to do while loop. So let's move to do while loop. So let's explain what do while loop is. So we say what the do while loop is similar to the while loop, but it executes the block of code at least once before what checking what the condition. So for example, we say what do block of code, then you can say while, then we check what the condition. So this is how the do while loop structure look like. So let's see how we can use it. So we can say do. So here we would update the game and draw the graphics before we check. So before we check the while in the condition, let's just say player is player alive. Is player alive. So these ones will get executed before it check the condition. So for example, let's run this and you see compile, run, player health is 10, player movement is 8, and we get this ones what executed before the statement. This statement is false as I change the condition here, health is less than what 0. So we what update the update the game, then draw the graphics before we check what the condition. So this one will get executed before we check the condition. So this one is like maybe you need to do some things. For example, draw some of these graphics. Let's say the menu, draw the game menu before you check for the player health or something like that. So that's where this do while loop comes in. So let's go to the next loop, which we call for loops. Or for loop. So basically what for loop is, we said what is used to repeat a block of code a fixed number of what times. So for loops you have to what give a fixed number that the code would what run within that what fixed length or what fixed number of times that will run. So let's say this. So basically we said that I is equals to 0, I is less than 10. So we have given a fixed length of fixed number of what 10 times here. So we are saying this block of the block of code here, this block of code here should execute what 10 times. So we have given a fixed number. So for example, let's say we have int let's say number of let's say enemies in game. Let's say they are equals to 10. And then let's create another function called here called void spam enemies, or an enemy, because just spam one of them, one enemy. So let's give this one enemy ID. So we say cout spam enemy. So come here, let's do to spam enemy ID. Okay, let's see this spam enemy. So basically I want to add the enemy number to it, so you can say spamming enemy 1, enemy 2, enemy 3, and so on. So we say for, and we define int I. So we say I equals to what 0, where I is less than what the number of what enemies in what in the game. Then we what keep incrementing I till what I is equals to what the number of what the enemies. Then we say what spam enemy, and then we pass what I. So I is an integer which we are passing to the spam. Yeah. So let's see if our code will compile. Yeah, compile. Then we run. Let's go through this. So you can see our output. We have what spamming enemy 0. So we start from what 0. Spamming enemy 1, spamming enemy 2, spamming enemy 3, spamming enemy 4, 5, and then up to 9. So because it starts with 0, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we wanted to if want to include 10, we can make it 11, but since it start with 0, basically that just means 10. So that is basically how we can use for loops. And also one thing is that you can also nest for loop inside with another for loop. So we can say j plus plus, and you can just nest this one inside here. So if we compile this, we run. So basically we have what nested this for loop inside another for loops. So here we have 0 0 0 plus 0, here is 0 1 plus 1 2 2 plus 1 3, in that order. So we are just adding them and then nesting them inside each other. So that's how it is. So here too, if one we can what combine we can combine if statements too with loops. So for example, we can say if the enemy is alive, then you span it. If the enemy is not alive, then we don't. So that's where we can also use the keywords such as continue and what break. So if statements too can also accept continue and what break. So basically what the continue keyword allow us to do is just what skip the illustration of what the loop. So for example, we can say so let's just define this continue. So we can say, let's say for int I equals to 0, then we say I is less than 10, then I plus plus. So here we can say if I equals to 3, then continue. I'll see out I. So when we compare this, so keep on calculating this. So when we compare this, you see that when we compile and run the code, it will count 1 2. When we get to 3, escape 3, and then continue 4 5 6 7 8 9. So that is basically what the continue is for. Say if it is 3, leave it and what go. If we want to, we can say if I percentage 2 equals to what 0. So here we are saying what it should ignore all even numbers and print out what the odd numbers. So if we want to, we can change this one to like this. So and it will print out the even numbers, leaving what the odd what numbers. like this. So we have what? The even numbers 0, 2, 4, 6, 8. But if we to use the break here, then it will break out of the loop and stop the whole what loop. So that is it's just the same way as the break that we use in the switch statement here. So it can also be added in in this in the for loop. So any other question? I think that is it. We are done for the day. We are done for today's session. So any question or any clarification? We have passed our time, 1 hour 30 minutes. We say we close, but it's now 1:38. So any question? Okay, Bashit, or is it Baki?
Yeah, okay. So my question is, as you nested the for loop,
Yeah.
can you also nest the while loops?
Yeah. Basically, you can nest while loop, but it's not. Let me say, it's not practical. Some way or one way or another, you can do it. You can add another while loop here, and this is not this way that you are talking about. So it's a condition. So if this one, then it can, but then I haven't seen maybe okay maybe when we are doing the graphics or what rendering, then maybe at some point we may be nesting while loops, but I haven't seen the point in doing that. But for loops, you it's something that happen most often. So for example, let's say we want to loop through an two-dimensional array. We'll get to arrays. We haven't get there yet, but they are like matrices. I hope you all know what matrices are. So let's say we want to add two different matrices together. So we can use what? For loops to do that. Nested for loops.
Mm,
Yeah. By
okay.
using a while loop is it will be complicated. Yeah,
Mm,
it will get to a point like you even understand the logic that is going within inside. But using a for loop, it gives what clear this the understanding of what how the code is what executing. So examples of where we usually use nested for loops is matrices, matrix, and sometimes to vectors. Any other question? Any other question before we are done with the for the day?